No início desta tarde, é um dos keynotes que mais curiosidade me despertou, vou ser sincera. Ele é Chief Storyteller da Microsoft. É o autor do blog Geek in Disguise, que eu acho maravilhoso. In Disguise, na verdade. O seu primeiro emprego, ele ganhava 7 libras por semana. E hoje em dia trabalha para dar a conhecer o que é a Microsoft e o impacto que a tecnologia tem nas pessoas e no mundo. Como se isto não bastasse, ele já saltou 3 vezes de bungee jumping. Porquê é que vocês querem saber isto? Não sei, mas é ser giro, grande maluco. Façam barulho para Steve Clayton, senhoras e senhores. Steve! Very nice to meet you.
Thank you, you too.
It's an honor.
Hello, good afternoon. Come on, audience participation, good afternoon. Thank you. So my name is Steve Clayton. I'm the Chief Storyteller for Microsoft, and it's a real pleasure to be here in Lisbon, in Portugal. It's somewhat unusual that I'm going to spend the next 30 minutes talking to a group of technologists about how technology is going to disappear. But stick with me, I think you will enjoy the journey, and don't worry, we will all still have jobs at the end of this, I promise. The clicker person might not have a job at the end of this. Let's see. So that's me. I'm going to start with some numbers, and I'll just leave them up there for a moment for you to guess maybe what these two numbers represent. The first one represents, click, click. Okay, let me slow down my clicking. Try and go backwards. You've now revealed all the secrets. That was not intended. Okay, let's try once more. Maybe if I don't move. Okay. 40 megabytes, the size of the first hard disk I had in a PC, which will give you some indication of just how old I am. I know I look young and youthful and exuberant up here on stage, but it was a long time ago. And I thought about this last night when I gave the team here my presentation on a USB stick that was 256 gigabytes. And I started in this industry with a PC with a hard disk that had 40 megabytes. And 1991 was the year that I started in the technology industry. And neither of those things were important, but 91 was the time of an important paper that was published by this gentleman, by Mark Weiser, who was the chief scientist at Xerox PARC. And this is almost 3 decades ago that he made this statement. The most profound technologies are those that disappear. They weave themselves into the fabric of everyday life until they're indistinguishable from it. And we are now at that point, and that's what I'd like to talk about today, is how technology is all around us. Technology is ubiquitous, technology is ambient. If you think about the world in which you live, the world in which you work, the world in which you operate, technology is everywhere. It's in the fabric of our building, it's in the fabric of our homes, it's in the fabric of our clothes. 2 other numbers that I've already revealed, but I'll reveal them again. 50 billion connected devices by 2030. That's twice the amount of connected devices that we have in the world today. And 175 zettabytes of data by 2025. We are in this world that is awash with devices and awash with data. And I'd like to show you a short video that we ran 3 years ago at Microsoft's developer conference in Seattle, Build. So cast your mind back 3 years, take a look at this short video.
As our world becomes increasingly digitized, so does our ability to connect with it. Imagine if you could search your surroundings the same way you search the web. Using existing cameras and advances in AI, we can now find things and people in the real world in real time and take action to improve safety and well-being. When a dangerous spill occurs in a chemical plant, cameras recognize the incident. Information about the spill is instantly shared with the people who need it the most, enabling them to protect other employees from coming in contact with the hazard and clean it up. This technology can also help keep people safer in hospitals. Patients recovering from heart surgery are limited to how much they should exert themselves. When someone exceeds the prescribed level of activity, a nurse is alerted. What's more, the location of the closest wheelchair is identified, so that the nurse can quickly get the patient seated and safe. This technology is also useful in an environment like a construction site, where people who need specialized tools are spread out, sometimes across multiple floors. Using cameras already in place, this technology can identify a specific tool, as well as the closest authorized person who can deliver it, saving everyone time and keeping the workflow moving. The digital and physical worlds are coming together to help make everyone more safe, secure, and productive. And we're bringing the edge of Microsoft's cloud to any device.
So 3 years ago when we showed that video and we showed a live demonstration of that technology, this was somewhat the reaction that we had. People were incredibly skeptical. They said, is that even possible? Do we want to be able to do those things? Yet we're standing here today with a set of technologies that I'll show you that allow us to do exactly those things. And it's what Microsoft calls the intelligent cloud and the intelligent edge. With these 20 billion connected devices, connected sensors, connected cameras that we have in our world, in factories, in offices, in our homes, we're now able to do the exact types of scenarios that you saw in that video by combining these intelligent devices on the edge with an intelligent cloud. And there are 3 products on this slide that I'd like to give you a sense of today around how do they contribute to creating these types of solutions. In particular, I'm going to use the retail environment to explain how we bring these to life. Azure Sphere, HoloLens, and Azure Sphere, HoloLens, and Azure Connect that you see up here on screen. Azure Connect comes from the same lineage as the Connect device that some of you may have used with an Xbox 360 7 or 8 years ago. It's an incredibly sophisticated detached camera that has an amazing depth sensing camera combined with an RGB camera, combined with a 7 microphone spatial array. What does that all mean? Well, it means that we now have a technology that can not only see the world, but it can understand the world around us. You can string 3 of these cameras together and create a panoramic view of an environment like a factory floor workspace and truly understand that environment. I'll also talk a little bit about HoloLens 2 today, that we announced early last year, an incredible breakthrough from where we were with HoloLens 1, a device that is 3 times as comfortable to wear, that has twice the field of view. And when you put this thing on, you can literally see holographs that you think are real right in front of your eyes. You can directly manipulate those holographs. Just pick them up as if you were picking up an object in the real world. It's like having 2 high-definition, 2K high-definition screens right in front of your eyeballs. And it allows you to do the types of things that you're seeing on screen here. But let me give you some examples of how customers are taking these technologies. I'm going to use retail as the example of here. How these technologies are allowing us to blend the physical and the digital world, and how technology is really starting to fade into the background and become something that helps people be more productive, helps their business be more productive. And the first example I will give you is Starbucks, very local to me in Seattle. They're headquartered in Seattle. Everybody's probably familiar with Starbucks. They're on every street corner. Starbucks has over 8,000 of the Mastrena coffee machines. If you've ever been into a Starbucks, you will have seen one of these coffee machines. And up until very recently, those coffee machines were disconnected, unintelligent devices. But by connecting an Azure Sphere module to those devices, Starbucks have been able to do a few things, very important things for their business. Number one, they can now securely monitor those devices. They can make sure they have the right uptime on those devices. They can start to do predictive maintenance, understand using AI models and machine learning, begin to understand and predict when one of the machines might have a malfunction. The other critical thing that they can do, why Starbucks have deployed this technology, is that they used to ship every year. Remember, you go into the Starbucks coffee shop at Christmas and you have the red cups and the eggnog latte. Starbucks every year distributes 8,000 USB sticks, secure USB sticks to each of their stores to put these new recipes onto the coffee machines. All of that is now distributed through Azure Sphere. So with one click from their headquarters, they know that they can be distributed securely. It's a secret recipe, so they don't want to lose one of these memory sticks. So they can securely deliver in pretty much under a few seconds a recipe to 8,000 of their coffee machines around the world and be able to monitor these machines in real time. Marks and Spencer's, one of my favorite retailers from my home country, the place that sells Percy pigs. And if you haven't had a Percy pig, you should have a Percy pig from Marks and Spencer's. It's a fine delicacy. But Marks and Spencer's have done almost exactly what you saw in that video earlier on. They've taken Azure Connect type cameras, deployed them into their stores, and started to use machine vision for incidents like this. When there's a spillage in store, or when there's overcrowding in the store, they now have cameras that not can just see, but can recognize what's going on in the store. But more than that, they're then connected through robotic process automation to be able to kick off a task and say, we need to replenish stock in a particular store, or we need to redivert some staff to an overcrowded part of the store to be able to reduce the lines at the checkout. So the exact same technology that we showed 3 years ago in that video at our Build conference, Marks and Spencer's are starting to deploy into their stores. A little bit closer here in Europe, Natuzzi are a high-end Italian furniture brand who are using our HoloLens technology to completely change the way that their customers can experience buying furniture. And so now customers can come into a store, in this case the Fifth Avenue store in New York, where Natuzzi don't have lots of floor space to be able to have all of their furniture in store. But a customer can now bring in a holographic representation of their home, of their living room, and start to pick out furniture and place it into that living room. Something that was just simply not possible a couple of years ago, and now we're starting to see customers like Natuzzi, Marks & Spencer, and Starbucks take these intelligent edge technologies, combine them with things like HoloLens, combine them with Azure Connect, so that computing is simply in our world. A few other examples. If I think about the combination of the cloud plus the edge, it gives us unprecedented power when we can take the power of the Azure cloud with a device like HoloLens down to as I think the most sophisticated example of an edge device. What do I mean by that? Well, last year we announced a service in Azure that's called Azure Remote Rendering. So a HoloLens is an incredibly capable computing device. But it's not the most high-performance computing device because it's a computer that's sat on your head. So it's not massively powerful, but it's powerful enough to be able to create great holograms from the device. But if you want something that is much more high resolution, much more sophisticated, in this case, the ability to see engine parts, you can take holograms and you can render them, you can stream them from the Azure cloud directly down to the device. What that means is you go from a device that can display 100,000 polygons on the device to a device that can display 100 million polygons. And when you start to use these devices for high-end engineering type work, that's the type of resolution that you need. So we thought, what could we do if you took 100 million polygons? What would be a great example of how we could see that technology in action? And we thought a little bit about the moon. And we thought about our friends at NASA. And so we took that technology, 100 million polygons, and a HoloLens 2 headset, and we put it in the hands of some friends at NASA, and I'd like to show you what they did with that technology.
I was 7 years old.
I was 13, and I'd been waiting for it for a long time. And what made it possible was this. The Saturn V moon rocket, the most powerful rocket ever successfully flown, 363 feet long, and each of its 3 stages had its own job to do, firing for a few minutes and then falling away, and it was all to take this Apollo spacecraft and 3 astronauts all the way to the moon.
You know, one of those really iconic memories, images from the Apollo program was the image of this interstage ring falling back away from the second stage.
You know, I've actually wondered what that ring was for.
So the story is that when the second stage was ready to ignite, it was weightless, and so was the fuel inside the tanks. The drains for the fuel are down at the bottom, so they needed some method to force the fuel to slosh down to the bottom. So this interstage ring has got these 4 solid rocket ullage motors, and they fire to provide a little bit of thrust to make that slosh happen so the engines can ignite cleanly.
Oh, okay. And then once the engines do ignite, the fuel stays at the bottom.
Exactly. So having done its job, they drop the ring away to save weight.
Amazing. Apollo engineering. Well, let's take a look at the entire Apollo 11 vehicle on the launch pad at Pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And now we're going to see Apollo 11 lift off and send Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Mike Collins on their way to the moon.
So that was a demonstration that we gave at our Build conference last year in Seattle. And I sat where you are sat in the audience and watched these two gentlemen give that presentation. And I believed that the rocket was on stage. The resolution was so high, the realism was so high. And so that's a fun application of it. But you think about where can you take that technology, what can you start to do with that type of technology? Think about education, the ability to be able to transport yourself to somewhere in the world, the ability for children in a classroom to walk down the Great Wall of China, or to walk around, parts of Africa, to go on safari. Of course, we all would like to do that in person, but the ability to take that technology for educational purposes and to transport yourself, transport you or a group somewhere else in the world, I think is a remarkable application of what we could do with HoloLens and Azure streaming. But one of the things that this current era of technology is sometimes criticized for, or there is a worry about, is technology going to take our jobs away? Is artificial intelligence going to replace our jobs and put us out of work? And so in this next video, I'd like to show you an application that one of our customers is using HoloLens for that actually does the direct opposite of that. It takes people who are looking for a job, who want to train themselves at a completely new profession, and accelerates their training schedule through that profession and turns them into an expert. So quite the opposite of sometimes what we hear in the press. So let me play this video for you.
First time I stepped into a cab, I was nervous.
I was lost. My first month, it was hard to remember every step, and it was hard to remember where everything goes. One of my best friend's moms literally tells me every single day how proud she is of me because down here this job is really, really good.
I have a 5-year-old, a 10-month-old, coming home and saying that, Mommy's not going back to work the next day. That's my biggest fear.
Everyone at Packard wants to be successful, but a new employee, it could take you multiple cycles to get up to speed. Every company struggles with training. Products are much more complex, so how do you keep up? We see guides and HoloLens as a great tool to change how adults learn. There's video built in, there's step-by-step instructions that can overlay holographic images, and so when you have in-depth training from an electronic mentor, we believe you'll be up to speed in a compressed time frame.
It trains you, because I've never done that and I know how to do it now off the first try. I think it's a really good, useful tool.
It was exciting, I don't know. It's super cool. It showed the entire harness going through the door. If I took those glasses off, I can't see that running all the way through there. By wearing the glasses, people would feel less pressure on them.
From what I've seen from the new hardware, I think it's going to knock it out of the park. Increased field of view is fantastic. Wearability is the other one. You get a much more immersive experience, one that people can use for a longer duration. I don't think there's anything close to this.
So think about any industry, in particular manufacturing industries, automotive industries, anywhere where you have equipment like that, and the ability to be able to take a workforce who are either untrained on a product or a workforce that you need to retrain. And through 2 products that we now provide, Dynamics 365 Guides, which is what you just saw in this video, and Dynamics 365 Remote Assist. Remote Assist essentially gives you a Skype-type connection. So if you're working on a product or trying to build a product and you're stuck, you can dial somebody else in and they can remotely assist you through that process. So as I mentioned, this idea that AI and technology is going to take jobs away, this runs somewhat counter to that that actually we can retrain an entire workforce and retrain them quickly through the use of technology like this. So as I come to the close, it wouldn't be a Microsoft presentation if I didn't talk about our mission to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And so the final thing I would like to show you is perhaps my favorite application of these technologies coming together. The cloud, devices on the edge, in this case a HoloLens, and AI. And we've made remarkable breakthroughs in AI over the last 5 years around machine reading, around machine comprehension, around translation. And late last summer, we put all of those things together into, I think I would say, my favorite technology presentation demonstration that we've ever completed. So I'd like to roll this last video and then to tell you a little bit about where I think this directs us for the future of technology.
First, let me introduce you to Mini-Me. There she is, my perfect holograph. And thanks to the power of HoloLens 2, she just floats right with me. I'm literally holding my hologram, so natural. Now she's a little small to do a keynote. So let's get her up, see what she can do full-size Japanese keynote. Render keynote.
私たちは最新の複合現実キャプチャ技術を使用し、私のホログラムを作成しています。実在の人物をホログラムとして見たことがあるかもしれませんが、私が実際に日本語を話しているのが新しいのです。私は日本語を話しませんが、私の声とホログラムは完璧な日本語で話しています。これはニューラルテキスト読み上げと呼ばれる最新の人工知能技術、いわゆるニューラル TTS を使用しています。私たちは自分の声の録音を使用し、私のように聞こえる私自身の個人的な音声署名を作成します。日本語からフランス語、ポルトガル語まで話せます。今、この技術は私たちが働き、遊び、生活する方法に関して、世界中の国境や障壁を取り除くことができると想像してみてください。まさに SF が現実になるところです。
So I was going to bring my holographic version of me here today to speak to you in Portuguese, but I decided probably best to be here in person and experience Lisbon in person. But as I looked around the room, I could see some people smiling and looking at that thinking, well, that's science fiction. It's not science fiction. That is science fact. And that, in some ways, could be the future of meetings, the future of some versions of events like this. To do that, we took Julia, we put her in a 360 capture studio, so in a green screen room with 100 cameras around Julia, and she stood in front of the cameras, talked for a while. We captured a 3D image of Julia, and then created a hologram of Julia. The other piece that obviously is in there is then we took Julia's voice. So we recorded Julia giving that presentation and then ran that through Microsoft translation technologies and could output that in any number of languages. I wish we'd had it outputted in Portuguese, but obviously it was in Japanese in this particular version of the demonstration. And so that technology, whilst it's not here today, it's not very far away. So you can imagine a future where maybe not me here presenting in Portuguese holographically, but I could be. But imagine meetings where you can genuinely have somebody in that meeting in a holographic way. That you don't always need HoloLens either. People could hold up a mobile phone, use an AR kit on iPhone and see the same experience. And you could hear the same translation. So that in many ways is the high watermark, the high point of where we're at when we take a holographic technology with HoloLens, I would say the most capable edge computing device in the world, our cloud technology with Azure, and our AI technology to be able to deliver real-time translation in multiple different languages. So I hope that gives you a bit of a glimpse of how computing is being woven into the fabric of everything we do. Computing in some ways is becoming invisible, but computing is also going to help with the jobs of the future. It's going to create entirely new jobs in the future for jobs that we don't even know exist today. So that, I think, is our future with invisible technology, Thank you for your attention and enjoy the rest of the conference.